Hey, good morning guys, Touch coming at you. It's about 10 to 10 on Sunday, March 15th. And as you can see, we got the chassis uncovered again. It's very dusty. I've already dusted off the back end of it as best I could, but the front end needs a lot of work. But that's what happens when you're in a closed environment over the winter time with no doors open, so it does get pretty dusty in here. Anyway, we'll clean her up as best we can. It certainly doesn't look like it's been freshly painted anymore, but that's okay. We're going to attempt to reassemble the rear of the car today. We'll try to get as far as we can. I have all of the freshly cleaned components over here. That represents a couple weeks of work, more than a couple weeks of work. So all those bits are clean, the springs are ready to go, brake back plates are ready to go, diff cover is ready to go. I've got the diff over there ready to go, or the rear axle ready to go. So yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape to start reassembling. And so we'll probably get to it shortly. We'll just put together a plan of action. I've dug my manuals out, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe go through a really brief intro on these manuals and how I use them in the restoration of this car. I think I did the same sort of similar thing when I had the TR6 out. I showed you all the manuals I had for that and what was important to have. And I'll show you a quick overview of what I've got here working out in the garage. Alright guys, see you in a bit. Alright guys, quick overview of what I'm using as far as manuals out in the garage to reassemble this car. So the first manual I have is the service instruction manual from Standard Triumph. And this is the third edition. It's one of the original books. So it says for Triumph TR2, but it's actually got a supplement for TR3, which is in the back of the manual. I do have a newer printed copy of this version as well. Same edition, third edition, 6 printing, but obviously this one's a lot newer publication, not being the hardcover, and obviously being a more modern publication. The cool thing about the older books, and I actually have a mint condition one of these that doesn't make it out to the garage, but they've got these really cool sort of flip out pages in here. Here's the general data page, for example. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this, but those are kind of cool. I really enjoy these, and I was actually thinking of framing a couple of the ones out of the mint condition book that I have, because I think they're pretty cool. Here's another one on the frame unit. So yeah, pretty detailed information on there to check your frame. I thought those would be kind of cool framed. So this is a good book, basically that covers pretty much everything you need to know about working on a Triumph 2 to Triumph TR3B. There are some minor changes along the way, but this will pretty much cover most things that you'll come across. I've just got this page open to the road springs and shock absorbers, because this is the part that I'm going to be working on today. So I just wanted to give you sort of a general overview of what these books look like and how descriptive they are. These books make this car extremely easy to work on. Also with the availability of parts. The parts availability for these cars are phenomenal. You can almost get every single nut and bolt for these cars. There's very few exceptions of parts that you can't get that are NLS. So I use that book basically to figure out what to do on this car. I also use the Haynes manual. If the language in this book gets a little bit over the top, sometimes it's a little difficult to understand the British terminology, the Haynes manual can sort of help you out in that regard. This one covers a lot more models from the 2 to the 4A, so it's a little less specific when it comes to the TR2, 3A, 3B. Because there's more information in there than what you require just for working on the Triumph TR3. So the other book I use out here is the spare parts catalog, and this comes in handy when you're trying to figure out what fasteners to use or the order of assembly, that kind of thing. It's got excellent, again, let me just, it's got excellent diagrams, and I think the diagrams pretty much from the manual are borrowed from the spare parts catalog, or vice versa. So you've got a pretty good idea of the rear suspension setup there by looking at this plate. It also has a reference to all the part numbers, so if I'm looking, for instance, what nut to use, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, number 10, I'm trying to figure out what nut I'm supposed to use on the back of my shackle plate. I'm not sure whether that's supposed to be a nylock nut or a hex nut or something other. Now, when I worked on my 1960, just because you took it off the car in one way, shape, or form doesn't exactly mean that that's the right way. Since this was a race car, it had many different types of fasteners used, and for the most part, none of them were really correct. They were fasteners that were grabbed that were easily at hand at the track, I would assume. So you can't necessarily go at what you take off the car as being correct. Even on this car, I don't think this car has really been apart too much, but it's always good to check that you've got the correct fasteners. Particularly if you're going for a concourse restoration, you want to make sure you've got the correct fasteners. But just from a safety perspective, I think you want to make sure that you have the correct fasteners on there as well. So after I've got the number for the nut, in this case it's number 10, I can then look at the grid over here, which tells me that it's part number HN2009, nut shackle plate attachment. So now we need to look up the HN2009. So I've just printed out this document, which is the hardware catalog for standard Triumph vehicles. So this comes in handy to look up what that HN2009 is. Now this is kind of small print, but I can see in here, let me just take my glasses off because I can't read with my glasses on. So again, it's very small print, but HN2009 is listed there. It's a 3/8 UNF, so it's fine thread, and it's a 9/16 across the flat, so 9/16 wrench. It's also got a nominal thickness of the nut as well. So those are the documents I'm really using quite a bit to reference the reassembly of this car, just to verify that I've got the right fasteners and the right order of reassembly going on. That, and obviously what I do is I take a ton of pictures and videos while I'm out in the garage. I always have my my iPad out here with me. I do have an internet signal in the garage, so in some cases I'll already have let me just put my password in here. So I'll be watching my videos out in the garage of how I disassembled the car. That's always a good reference as well. And I always have a regular camera out here just to take some pictures to access for reference as well if I just need some still photos. So yeah, so that's basically what I do out in the garage when I'm working on the car. It just helps me out quite a bit. My memory's not as good as it used to be, so manuals are always a good reference point, as well as the videos and still pictures. So that's just a quick overview of what I use out in the garage. Alright guys, well, back to work. Alright guys, I just popped into the house and I grabbed a few more books that I wanted to show you. And I don't necessarily always have them out in the garage, but I wanted to show them as a reference in addition to the other books I've just showed you. So this is just a parts manual. This one happens to be from Moss Motors. This is a catalog for the TR2 to TR3A. And the reason I wanted to show it to you and why I find this valuable, it still has the diagrams in here pretty much that are mostly the same as what you see in the manuals in the spare parts catalog. However, what I find valuable in these catalogs are they also indicate in a lot of cases changeover numbers by year or by commission number. So if you're looking for a specific part, and I don't think you'll be able to see this, or you might be able to see this, but this is the bonnet, for instance, and scuttle panels, and it's got change numbers by commission number. So you see here TR2 to TS number 994, TR2 from TS 995 to TS 6156, and so on. So it helps you identify what parts you need by year, because there are certain changes that somebody that's not really sort of familiar with these cars may not notice. But there are definitely changes that you need to be aware of when you're ordering parts if you're looking to keep the car original looking, at least. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's an important resource for us when we're ordering parts. Any of the major parts vendors usually have catalogs or online catalogs to look at for us to order parts from. One of the other good books, if you're doing a full body off restoration or you're doing individual components, is this book by Roger Williams called How to Restore Triumph TR2, TR3, 3A. It's a good resource. Like I said, it's got a lot of tips in here on upgrades or things maybe you should be looking at doing when you're restoring the car. It's a very good read if you are doing a full body off restoration with lots of metal work, floor replacements, that kind of thing. It gives you good tips and pointers on how to do that. I believe there's a color version of this which would probably be better than the black and white. I just have the black and white version of this, and it's been a very good read. Here's actually a section here on body restoration, and it's showing how to do floor replacement and the proper structure reinforcement, that kind of thing, and how to do floor replacements properly. Anyway, that's a good book. If you're getting into a full restoration, it's a great book to have as a reference. Again, I don't keep this out in the garage. It's something I just keep in the house, and I read every now and again if I'm looking at a particular part on the car I'm looking at restoring. These are really good reference books just for if you're a concourse restoration guy. They are really good because they have the histories of the cars, and they also talk about changes through the model years. This was the original book I bought. This is the original Triumph TR by Bill Piggott. Now, this book actually has all of the Triumph TR models, not just the side screen models. Look at that. Old sports car illustrated for the TR10. Anyway, it does have a section on the TR2, 3, and 3A up to the 3B, which is a good read, but it's also, like I said, got all of the other TR models, including some of the rarer models like the Triumph Italia. So that was a very good read, but one more specific to the Triumph TR2, 3, and 3A is this In Detail book, again by Bill Piggott, and this really just concerns side screen cars. So it's got a lot of great information, some really good reading. It's got, I'll show you the contents, background, prototypes, production, optional extras, side screen TR literature, side screens in competition, Le Mans cars, blah, blah, blah. So lots of great information in here, and again, it's really invaluable for doing period correct concourse restoration. It's got a lot of great photos, tells you how things should be both in print and in photos. So it's a really interesting read. If you don't have this book, I recommend it. I think they are getting more difficult to find, these books, and particularly this book, the original Triumph TR, I think is a little bit difficult to get. I've seen this going for astronomical prices on eBay. I don't believe it's in print anymore. So anyway, they're good reference books to have as well. They're a really good read, good coffee table books, and I don't keep these out in the garage either. Just thought I'd let you know I've got those just for reference. So anyway, that's it for now, guys. We'll get back to working on the car. So the first thing I'm going to do, guys, is I'm actually going to put a little NTCs on these front spring pins. They can be a bitch to get out of the frame. They really rust in solid. So if I ever need to get these out in the future, the NTCs I'm sure will help more than not having it on there. So we're going to do that to begin with on both sides. Next thing I'm going to do, guys, is I've got the tap and die set out. I'm going to chase all those threads on the pins, and I've got some studs there on the frame for the axle buffer strap. So I'm going to chase all those threads. We'll do the same for these U-bolts as well, and we'll do the same for the shackle pins on the back. So we'll get those all cleaned up and ready to go. Hey, good morning, guys. Tush coming at you. It's Sunday, March 22nd, just after 9 o'clock in the morning. Cold morning outside, -10. You wouldn't think it's now spring. I believe we have an overnight low tonight of -14, so it's getting even a little colder. So hopefully that will improve during the week. Anyway, we're back out in the garage. We haven't been out here since last Sunday. Had a busy week at work, unfortunately, and wasn't able to get out here to tinker at all on the car. So we sort of just left off on last Sunday. We've put a few things together and stopped. If I recall, on last Sunday, it wasn't a good garage day. Things just were not sort of clicking and going into place as they should. So I was a little frustrated last Sunday and sort of just left it. And if you can see there, I just sort of dropped my tools and walked away. Sometimes it's better to do that than to be out here and sort of not have your mind on it. So we're back on the car today, and the first thing we want to do is we want to get those buffers, this little rubber buffers here, secured to the axles. I do have the springs on the car loosely. They actually have to come off again at some point, not off entirely. Usually what I do is I remove the rear shackle plates to be able to lift the spring up to meet the plate that attaches the spring to the bottom of the axle. I'll show you that in a bit of a video when I get to that point, but it's important to know that you will have to move the spring upwards in order to get that bottom plate attached to the bottom of the spring. There's no other way to do it. You might be able to do it with the weight of the full body engine suspension on the car, but you cannot definitely not do it as it is in this condition. Alright, so we're going to get to it. We'll take a few videos along the way. Like I said, the first thing I'm going to concentrate on is getting those rubber buffers located properly and secured. There's a little bit of a trick here. They come with these old school, let me see if I can just dig these out of here real quick. Hang on guys, sorry for the shaky camera. Yeah, these old school wire ties. We'll play around with these and see if I can get them to work properly. If I can't get these to work properly, then we're just going to resort to some zip ties, nylon zip ties, which I have. But we'll play with these since I have them first, and we'll see if we can make them work and get those to snug up properly. Alright guys, we'll bring you back when we have some progress or something else to show you. Guys, so I've got the shock link in, just loosely attached. It's you got to definitely put that in first. I've got the rubber buffer on. I haven't wired it yet until I get the actual location of the axle in. I've removed the rear shackle pin, you can see it here, so I can lift this spring up so I can actually attach the bottom plate to the bottom of the axle. So I've got that sort of free floating. It's easy enough to push down and fit the shackle pin after you've got that plate attached. I find it easy enough either way. You can do it from the back or from the front. I just find it easier from the back personally. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to get that plate affixed to the bottom with those U-bolts, and we'll bring you back in a little bit. Oh, one more thing before I go. I've got the, I actually have a sway bar, a rear sway bar on this car, so I've actually got the rear sway bar link assembled here. So we're going to attach that. Actually feeds through two of the U-bolts feed through this. In addition to that bottom plate. So if you've got a sway bar, you'll need to fit this bracket as well. Right, and guys, one other tip while I'm at it before I start, these U-bolts can be a bit of a bitch actually to get threaded through the bottom plate, as the bolts actually are usually a little wider than the actual plate holes themselves. They sort of want to spring out. So what I find helpful, you can see that they're slightly misaligned. They just won't go through cleanly. So what I normally do is I grab this is actually a wood clamp, and I use that wood clamp to sort of squeeze the top of the U-bolt together so I can actually fit it easily through the bottom plate. So I just wanted to give you a quick tip on that. I wasn't even focusing on the project, but there we go. So that's kind of what I was talking about by using this wood clamp to compress those U-bolts enough to feed them through the bottom plates. So just wanted to give you a quick shot up of that sort of redneck approach. It seems to work though, so I'll go with what works. Hey, good evening guys, Tush coming back at you. It's just coming up to 7 o'clock, so I thought I'd do a quick update. So we've pretty much got everything back together as far as the rear end is concerned. We've got everything bolted up loosely. We haven't bent over the safety tabs yet on the rear axle or on the back plates, but everything is in. Shock links are connected, but just fastened loosely. Brake back plates are on, brakes are on, drums are on, buffers are on, rear shackles are on loosely, front pins are on, no cotter pins yet. So yeah, it's coming together, looking pretty good. So I think what I'll do next is I'll grab the emergency brake cables and we'll stick those on the car, get them out of the bin, put some more bits back on the car, and then I think what we'll do next is we'll move up to the front of the car and we'll complete the passenger side front suspension and get that wrapped up, and then we'll be back to rolling. So that's it for now, guys. We'll come back. I'm not sure whether I'll upload this as it is right now, or maybe we'll come back with one more update for the night. We will see.